It's sort of like we've come full circle here. We began, and like most coaches, talking hockey. Now we're talking about the purpose of sport or the purpose of hockey and things that really, really matter. And Jordan, I was going to, at some point, had I intervened much earlier, and I'm doing it now. I've known you for a number of years. You've had success with the Bantam AAA teams, dealt with adversity related to uh, parental issues and possibly board issues. And you've recently had major success with your Midget AA team, and you're a real committed guy to the female game. We had the National Under 18 Championships on near Calgary here, Okotoks. Jordan volunteered his services for that after school was out, and he spent the weekend as well at the evaluation for the AAA. Not an evaluation; it was just sort of an observation camp for the midget AAA girl prospects. So, Jordan, I'm just curious relative to the whole um, conversation related to hockey specifically. Your experience coaching, lessons you've learned, mistakes you've made, why you've achieved success. And go ahead, Jordan.
Well, I don't know, and I'm going to echo I think what everybody else has been saying. Whether I wouldn't say that the championships are the measure of success, and I think I've learned that more as a coach than I ever did as a player. As a player, of course, it was win at all costs, and in many ways, and I was a very emotional type player. That it was energy guy. If you wanted to slow me down, the only way of doing that was give me the puck. So it was one of those pieces that forced me also to be a student of the game because I needed to know what everyone else on the ice was doing. Because if I wanted more ice time or wanted to at least keep my ice time, those higher skilled guys on my lines, if they screwed up, I had to be able to cover for them so that we would continue to get ice. So it was a different time back then, the way it worked. But as far as coaching has gone, of course it fits right in with the educational vein and passion that I have. And actually, I attribute my involvement with coaching early on in life as actually the reason why I ended up in education. Because if you'd have told me when I was a teenager that I was going to be a teacher and then later an administrator in a school, I'd have told you you're full of it. But there was no way I was going to be back in schools. And here I am 20 years later, back in schools and enjoying most every day, not every day, but the vast majority I enjoy it. So when it comes to coaching, your Wally and I crossed paths when I was first coaching Bantam AAA. I had arguably the best team talent-wise in the province, hands down. In that there were several of those players have gone on to play NCAA, and the vast majority of them have gone on to post-secondary. But they were a difficult group to coach in the parent group because there's only so much ice to be had, and I believed in development and rolling lines, but in using rolling lines to do that, playing in all situations. But of course, we had parents that wanted their kids to play in particular situations and not, and I didn't know what I didn't know, so it was a lot of work dealing with that parent group. Wally came on into the picture, helping me navigate through that. Uh, that season, we won the provincial championship, but I was left feeling a little bit flat in that season with some of the issues that we dealt with parents. The following season, the parents went in with zero expectations because the majority of these talented players had graduated on. But fortunately, we were able to reload with some players and go with, much like Ken had talked about, hard work ethic as our team identity. And that team went on to once again make it to the provincial final. We lost the provincial final best of three series in two overtime games in the final two games. Um, I was left feeling a little better about that team because of the way that the development had occurred, and it was development that the parents hadn't necessarily expected. But of course, we had some parents that had gotten themselves on the board for a reason, and they wanted to pick their own coaches. So I was did not return. Uh, was then away from the game a little bit, running a hockey program at my high school and staying involved in it that way. And much like Greg had talked about, but uh, the importance of focus on life skills and seeing hockey as a vehicle rather than the end result piece. So we're looking at it as the hockey as a vehicle to become a better person and better human. And so when I got the opportunity this past season, skipping ahead a little bit, um, it was late in the stages, so I just said with it, I'm going to draft our group out of players with the best character. Yes, I wanted good hockey players, but I wanted kids of great character as well. So I spent the time through the training camp process on the benches, not sitting in the stands. I was on the bench, and the sole reason was I wanted to see the interactions that those kids were having with one another. I wanted to see the body language as I came back to the bench. I wanted to see how they would react when I gave them a suggestion uh, or those pieces. So it was really an important piece of doing that. And unfortunately, I was able to draft a crew that had a lot of character. And we went on this season working on habits from the start of that hard forecheck, hard back check, stick lift. Uh, and the kids went on a 10-0 run coming right out of the gate. And so I was like, well, I can't really do a whole bunch with this group. Their D zone isn't great, but we have to lose a game before they're going to become coachable. So we lost a couple games and went into that piece. Uh, if the other piece that went on was um, continuing to work with those habits and just adding the game. But one of the things interesting that Ken had talked about was the community piece. And we added that to the program this year, that my expectation was the girls were going to be a part of our community. They every time that we played the other Calgary team, there was some sort of service aspect to it. First time through it was donations to the food bank. Second time through was donations to Kids Sport, which raises equipment for the for athletes that can't afford it, and then went through a Christmas piece for the Children's Hospital. The girls also volunteered their time around Remembrance Day, setting up crosses for a Field of Crosses tribute on Memorial Drive, and that was a real interesting one. I had an email from parent concerned over that one because they were out in the morning prior to a game. They were out in the rain and or showering kind of cold, and they're setting up these crosses. And a parent sent me an email saying, "Should we not be doing this because we have a game that day?" And I said, "I didn't expect that our kids would be sitting around all day waiting on the game, and that I figured an hour and a half of service to their community would do them some good." Well, the girls went out, played a really good game that afternoon, and won it. Um, the other part that what happened was the girls felt so great about themselves from all of the people, veterans and others, that came up to them that were thanking them because they were wearing their jerseys and they knew who they were, and that piece. And then they invited them back to a sunset ceremony later on in the week, which was pretty awesome for the girls to be a part of. Season continued on with some trials and tribulations, of course, but that character piece shone through. It wasn't without any drama, but the drama that we had was stuff that the kids could navigate and get through with a little bit of support, and that's where that character piece came in. The girls had a great run We went out to a AAA tournament, even though we were double A. We did a lot of learning in that tournament as we only won one game, but the learning part was really important. The girls understood that if you didn't take care of your D zone, that you were digging pucks out of your net. And then they realized how heavy of a game that they could play physically. And then they realized that, wow, if you moved the puck and worked as hard as you possibly could, they could compete at that level. So then when we got back to our double A last game of the season, well, they ran over our closest competition, and then we went into the playoffs, and they ran right through the playoffs and went 5-0 in the provincial tournament to win the championship. It was a team that they bought into the idea that all players would play in all situations. They bought into the idea that it was equitable but not equalized, but we did roll the bench for the most part. And that was something that they saw right in the championship game, that we were playing the best team from the north part of Alberta. And at the end of the first period, it was 0-0. And I leaned to my assistant coaches after and said, we have them right where we want them. I said, if it stays tight like this, I said, they're already down to 2.5 lines of players that they're using. We're still rolling 4. And our girls just got stronger and stronger as the game went on and ended up winning the championship. It was probably one of the most special championships that I've been a part of, including ones that I was part of as a player, just because seeing how that team came together. The message that I gave them right from the start was that our goal was to be better people at the end of this season, and hockey was going to be our vehicle. And then the other part was that it could either be a special season or just a good season, and it was up to them to determine whether it would be that special season. And I had at the end of the season several girls say to me that, you know, you're right. This was one of those special seasons, and it was because we came together the way we did, and so it was one of those. It was a little bit of lightning in a bottle, and I don't know whether I can replicate it, but we'll definitely try. But it's one of those pieces, as I said to one parent at the rink on the weekend, that if our only measure of success is who lifts the trophy at the end, then out of 11-team league, there's 10 people that didn't, or 10 teams that didn't have success. So you have 190 girls that didn't have success if you go by that model. Whereas if it's about development and about becoming better people, we can all have success.
Jordan, before I go to Tim, I wanted to mention I've worked closely with Jordan for a number of years, and just it was a real pleasure to observe his work with the team this year. And when you're talking about qualities and commitment, and as a coach, uh, it was really an eye opener that looking at Jordan and the time he spent um, with in preparation and respecting the girls as people. He would arrive probably the first guy to be at the rink before the girls and greet them by their names. And he would be the last to leave. That was one of his prerogatives. And I remember Jordan in Okotoks, you're playing a game, there was a bit of a blizzard, and he waited out everybody, and you saw the last. There was a girl that was driving there that had to drive back, and the concern you showed waiting for the whole team and for all the girls, that was consistent. It was authentic. So kudos to you and the job you did, and hopefully you keep hanging in there and doing what you're doing. So Tim, you had an
I was going to say, Wally, don't tell my employer how much time I put into hockey. Although
well. I
he's a
think
hockey guy too, so he knows that. And then the other one, Wally, I just add is that these Sharks calls are probably what helped me as much as anything going into it. You talk about addressing the kids by their first name. That came from a conversation Morris brought up about nicknames, and not necessarily understanding where nicknames come from, and that some people have a nickname that they don't like. So I really made a concerted effort this year of using their first names, and yes, there were times that I shortened down to their last names and nicknames and some of those too. But it was that piece of, I think that it showed them early on that I was wanting to know them as people, and that piece. So, but yes, the art of coaching piece that's come through in these Sharks calls have been great in learning for me, as well as reinforcement of some of the items that I've already believed in. And so I really appreciate that piece. And it goes back to what Ken was talking about professional learning. And anytime that we can continue to learn, we're going to be better for our players. And that piece. And Wally, just so you know, I know that you probably felt this. Wally was around our team a little bit because he was doing my HP1 evaluation field test. And the girls got to know Wally, and so whenever they would spot Wally, whether it was at a practice or at a game, they would go, "Oh, there's Wally!" And then even in the provincial tournament, when they saw that he was there, they were excited that Wally was there because they knew that he was invested as well. So it's that investment piece when you are authentic about it, and obviously if you're on these types of calls, you're in it for the right reasons and have a passion for the sport. So thanks, Wally.